freezing day. I was trying to transfer all the files to the external hard drive and stuff yesterday, and holy, it just took so long. Actually, even when I woke up, I left it running, it still didn't finish because it was only transferring at like what, maybe 20 megabytes a second? Because for the USB ports, I ran out of like USB 3 ports. But funny enough, I actually have a USB 3 header still on the actual PC and the motherboard, so I have to buy like a cord basically. So that should give me more slots because you should see how many hard drives I have just to manage all the files and the videos and stuff like that. That's one thing too, just thinking about some of those new drones and stuff like that. Like if they shoot 8K, I mean that's nice. But I'm just thinking about things like the space and how huge the files are gonna be. I spent some time today just trying to read up on all that SFOC stuff on what they want in terms of information, and so far it just sounds so traditional pilot related, like the stuff that they want. But at first, I guess I read this story that got me thinking about the process in general a little bit. It says here, drones might not be flying for Black Friday deliveries, but they are here. The article seemed to revolve around the fact that while there are plenty of people who could fly them, I guess for personal or business, basically it's the red tape, like the government doesn't want to give, I guess, people permission to actually do it. So basically it talks about the company, how they're trying to basically operate in more rural areas as opposed to busy cities to get started, I guess you could say. It says Toronto-based Drone Delivery Canada will begin operating drones in the rural community of Moosonee, Ontario in the new year. Its Sparrow drones can carry up to 4.5 kilograms to remote First Nation communities, which are often cut off because of ice and snow. The only way in is often by helicopter, which is expensive and not always available, which means packages can often take days to deliver. It kind of relates to, I guess, that story I read before where there was a sick person in an island, so to speak, and they couldn't afford the helicopter, so because of that, they unfortunately had to let the person pass away. And it says they will be using the Sparrow drones, although it plans on implementing larger units when they become available next year. All will be controlled from Drone Delivery's command center, where pilots can monitor up to 50 units at a time anywhere in the world. And then this quote got me thinking to the point I always mention where everything is so pilot, like traditional aviation related, as opposed to how it is with an actual drone operator, where I pretty much guarantee if you dump in a traditional pilot with all the license and so forth, gave them a drone, they probably won't do as well as a gamer. That's what I even said. So it's interesting reading this part here. It says 2 operators Global News saw working had license to operate helicopters and planes. Although that's not a necessary qualification. Some of the best pilots, Sarah said, learned how to fly through video games. I wouldn't doubt it one bit. I guess I'm a prime example of that. My background basically wasn't in aviation or anything like that, but a lot of the skills just from things like video games and all that translated to things like this perfectly. Alright, and trying to wrap my head through that SFOC things. One of the things it seems like they want you to do is have this thing called an air risk class decision. And they basically give you this kind of like tree and stuff like that. I guess it's supposed to be a way of saying, okay, you're flying it up in the air. What kind of hazards are there going to be in terms of, I guess, the way you're going to operate it, in terms of everything from the airspace to how you're going to, I guess, communicate with people. So with this tree here, for example, there's things like an ARC. Basically, again, it's an air risk class, and basically you go through this little chart to see what class you're going to be operating in, I guess you could say. So for me, following this chart, it says, is the operation in atypical airspace? I said no. Is the operation above FL 600? I said no. Operation in airport or heliport environment? No. And basically it says operation above 400 feet AGL but below FL 600. I said yes. And just a few more steps, it says operation in a transponder airspace. I said no. In a controlled airspace? No. So apparently I'm in an ARCC type of operation. So for me, at first I was like, okay, what are all these weird definitions and stuff that I personally haven't heard of before? It says here, airspace encounter categories. The 4 ARC levels described above were created by initially dividing the airspace into a set airspace encounter categories, representing the generalized encounter rates with the traditional aircraft, and then setting the 4 ARC levels based on AECs that represent approximately the equivalent levels of encounter risk. The AECs are depicted in figure 5 below. So they give you like this chart and stuff here, like there's an ARC A, B, C, D, and you can see everything here. Above FL 600, below FL 600, so pretty much again, from what they said here, I should be in an ARCC. I was actually wondering what the FL was. Apparently that's flight level, and it says in aviation and aviation meteorology, flight level is an aircraft's altitude at standard air pressure expressed in hundreds of feet. So I just looked at some charts basically just to get an idea. Like this one says a flight level 10 is 300 meters and 1,000 feet. A flight level 20 is 600 meters and 2,000 feet. So based on those numbers, I should be way away from like basically that stated what FL 600. Like I would be at what, maybe 16 or less technically, again with the max of what that drone should go, like just with its software and all that. And then it kind of goes on with this list of depending what category you're in, you should have some kind of, I guess, items in place to make sure you're identifying, I guess, aircraft and stuff like that, or how you can basically avoid them if something happens. Like it says here, as per ARCB, acceptance detection threshold is 90% of all aircraft in the detection volume. In addition to technologies described in ARCB, this could also include use of ATC separation services, active communication with ATC and other airspace users. The applicant provides an assessment of the effectiveness of the detection tools and methods chosen. So going to the B, that would include things like they said, active or passive sensors, use of low-cost ADS-B and so forth. Basically that's the stuff that there should be implemented like in the new DJI products to my understanding in 2020. But like here I'm thinking honestly with the operation that I said I'm going to do, the best detection tool and stuff is my own eyes and ears. I'm flying it within the visual line of sight. It's within an area. I'm not actually going like say forwards or backwards. I'm going up and down. So realistically, just your common sense and again, personal awareness is the best tool. I could argue in this particular operation, having too many frequencies, all these radios and stuff open could actually be more dangerous because you'll get distracted. Like it's one thing, for example, if I was in an airplane where you don't really have like the full 360 vision and all that, but in this case, you're a guy out there with a remote controlled drone where you can see everywhere. I can hear and see if there's a plane or whatever helicopter coming from like what, miles away. Although the atypical airspace definition kind of confused me a little bit because it says here, what is an atypical airspace? It says it's either a restricted airspace with permission from the coordinating authority, a northern domestic airspace as defined in a designated airspace handbook outside an airport environment at or below 400 feet. And then this one here, it says within 100 feet, 30 meters or less above, and 200 feet or less horizontally from any building or structure located in uncontrolled airspace outside of an airport environment. So is technically like a residential, like let's just say like a building, like you're the only one there, for example, and you're above this 30 meters or whatever outside of an airport environment in Class G, would that mean you're in atypical airspace according to that definition? But that's what I'm reading for now. Let's see if we can get this done before the quote deadline, I guess you could say. Hey, you saw me from a distance, huh? Look at that, jumping, running away once it notices a dog. Alright, see you guys later.